Thanks. I'm going to now announce Arie van Bennekum. So we do an impulse format with time boxing. It's a 15 minutes impulse with a 10 minutes Q&A. And so if you wish to be on the recording, you don't have to do anything. And if you don't have to be on the recording, you don't want to be, you also don't have to do anything. Only if you speak, you will be recorded. And we will be sharing the recording in a while and update you on where to find it. Probably we also make a little announcement on LinkedIn. If you want to stay in the know easily, why not following our LinkedIn page on LinkedIn? Arie is well known in the Agile community, and maybe most of you know him by his name. He's known for his invaluable contributions to the field, and Arie has also played a pivotal role in shaping the Agile methodology and the Agile manifesto. So it's also for sure that it's adopted across various industries, not just the IT industry. And his passion for Agile principles and dedication to, say, fostering collaboration and adaptability within teams have earned him also certainly a reputation as a thought leader and as an influencer in the Agile community. Arie is owner of 3AMC and also thought leader at the Institute of Agility and Innovation. So I probably don't have to make any more announcements, and I'm very delighted, Arie, that Arie is with us today. And I believe we are all curious on your impulse, Arie, if it's really Agile or Agile really. Arie, so the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just started my timer for 15 minutes. At the moment, since January 1, I work for Early Friday in the Netherlands, still traveling a lot. And this is for me, the work that I've done always, like, being in the Agile field and being out there. Coming back to your breakout, if I want to start there. When we wrote the manifesto, I was working for a beautiful company called Solvision. It's been bought by a big consultancy firm later on, and it disappeared. But that company, Solvision, had the ultimate self-organizing teams. It was an IT consultancy firm. And in the teams, we did everything except paying salaries and sending invoices to clients. All the rest was done in the teams, from innovation and marketing, business development, sales, delivery, hiring, firing, everything was in there. And, I started doing that in 1997, and it was awesome. And then you think, oh, this works so great. People must love this. I found out the hard way, because later on in other companies, I tried to suggest and implement that as well. And it didn't work. And you come to the conclusion, okay, we have to do something to make things change. And I think this is where we are with Agile as well. I started doing Agile in the mid, what you call Agile today, in the mid-90s. And from there forward, that it was, for me, it felt so logical and so natural. And then you expect, when you go to places and you do delivery projects and they are successful, that everybody will say, oh, this works. We always had those problems and now they're gone. But that's a difficult one. And I would like to take you back to those mid-90s, where all the authors of the Agile Manifesto, one way or the other, were experimenting. And this is what we need to realize. We were experimenting to overcome the embedded problems that are in the waterfall, right? That's what we were doing. And that means that we had to innovate, and that you would get into trouble, you would bump your nose, you would hit the wall, and then you would say, okay, I don't want to go back to this situation. This is what I really want to leave behind. But how can I get better at what I am? What can I do to make that successful? And I have to be very honest that that kind of experimenting is something that, for me, represents what Agile is all about. It's not chaos. For me, the principle is okay, this is how we work until we decide together that we're going to work in a different way. If you go back to what the problems in the waterfall create is delay, right? That's very simple. You have toll gates, very inefficient, wrong communication, the remote are written, so we get misunderstandings. So you need to fix that. So you lose time. You know, with the waterfall, testing is only at the end. Estimations are wrong. So by the time that we get to the end of our timeline, you know, we have those problems, we have the bugs, we have to fix them, and it takes time, right? So what you try to do, those three elementary problems, you know, the inefficiency, the misunderstandings, and the quality, you try to overcome them working Agile. And from that perspective, you can say Agile is about avoiding delay of delivering valuable solutions to operations, right? If you want to use that phrase. And coming back to what I just said, it felt for me so logical, you know, what to do when we were writing the manifesto. Remember that we had 13 different frameworks in the room, 17 people, 13 frameworks, and every framework has practices that you can use. Visual management, the snowman, foundations, pair programming, refactoring, all those things that you can use depending on the issue that you have in your team. You can look in the frameworks and find something that will help you to make the next step to get better. And that's what I miss these days, you know, and I've been wondering, because I think these days we are in, you know, dogmatic use of frameworks and certification, which doesn't give you agility. It just gives you knowledge of one framework, right? And frameworks have that focus, either quality or efficiency or the value delivery, right? So I have been thinking about how is this possible, you know, that we have something that I have literally been in a situation where we had problems in the client had problems in projects a lot. And we were doing, in the team that I worked on, I was the project manager at the time, 3 projects in a row where we would have things like, you know, on time, happy client, in budget. And then after 3 projects, the CIO came to me and he said, "Hey, Arie, I know you're doing well. I know those projects work well, but we're not going to work like this because it's so complicated." And I thought, what the fuck? I basically put people at the table together, you know, to avoid the misunderstandings, to have as efficient as possible all the decisions that need to be made, and also to make sure that we work in a circular model instead of in a linear model, you know, to avoid that we have testing at the end. There's nothing complicated about it. But then I realized as well that this guy was not a liar, right? He was not a liar, that's for sure. And then I started digging in, and then you come to the word paradigm. You know, if you look at Agile at the top layer, it's all, we have a daily, we have a plan board, and we have tickets on the board, and you know, that's the top layer. But if you really want to work Agile, you have to take that layer below, where you bump into what I call the paradigm shift. You know, paradigm is a perception of the world. And this means changing, I mean, the breakout was about self-organizing, changing the perception of roles, changing the perception of collaboration, changing the perception of decision-making, of documentation, of reporting, on how you handle quality, how you define quality. And that paradigm shift is difficult. That's very difficult for everybody, for you, me, everybody. A paradigm shift is difficult. Unless that new paradigm feels very close to you and very natural to you, like you know, that Agile way of working felt to me. And I want to give you an example of the paradigm shift, you know, on what it can bring. My girlfriend is from South Africa. In South Africa, they drive on the left side of the road. I'm from the Netherlands. We drive on the right side of the road. And on the outside, a lot of things look the same. You know, if you look at a car, okay, the steering wheel is at the other side, but it looks like a car. There's wheels, roof, you know, an engine, everything is there. When you go onto the road, you have signs, you have cars, lorries, bicyclists, you know, motorcycles, whatever. You have traffic lights, and you have the rules of the game. And I remember that I went to, for the first time, we are dating for over 4 years. The first time, about 4 years ago, this time of the year, I'm with her in South Africa. I get into the car and I'm sitting in the same position, you know, the left chair where I always am. Difference, no pedals, no steering wheel, right? That is, so she's sitting on the right side and we're approaching the first equal crossing. And I asked her, I said, you know, tell me, you know, how does this work here? Who has right of way? Who has preference here? And she said, oh, it's very simple, because the one who comes first has preference. And I said to her, well, you should try that one in Amsterdam. I'm going to tell you, it's not going to work. And then you get into the details and you notice that not all the signs, so the rules are different. Not the same, there's an overlap, but they're different. The signs are different. Then you have situations that you don't know. For example, in Johannesburg, you have load shedding. So part of the city are without electricity, including the traffic lights, and you have to handle yourself there with all the new rules and new signs. Now, the point is, I can go, and this is the analogy with Agile working, I can go to a 2-day masterclass. And managers expect us, and maybe we even expect from ourselves after 2 days to be an expert. But the big problem is you can talk to me about the rules of the game. You can talk to me about the science. You can do a little bit exercise in the 2-day masterclass, but that doesn't make me an expert. If I go after that 2-day masterclass, behind the wheel, in that car, in Johannesburg traffic, and I drive slowly, not too fast, I will be okay. And I can, every time that I approach another, person on the road, whatever vehicle they use, or I approach a crossing or a junction or whatever, I am driving slowly, I can think, etc. Right? I can, the new rules of the game, but the point is, 1, I'm never alone in traffic, like in any organization, and 2, always unexpected events happen. And what happens if an unexpected event comes in? What happens? Our reflexes come in. If we have a problem, we look in our brain and we try to find the solution. You know what solutions that we have in our brain? We have the solutions in our brain from the old paradigms, not from the new. So things go wrong. We have to accept, that replacing habits, replacing your reflexes in traffic, it's all about reflexes. You have to build a new set of behavior, new set of habits, new set of reflexes. And this is the difficulty. On top, we as human beings, we don't like change. It's that sort of crocodile model where you lay on the riverbank and you think, I'm 650 million years old. And I am that old because I stay where I am and I only leave when I really have to. Right? And we don't like that change. And that is a big thing. Also, we like to be told what to do. And this is where, that whole thing for frameworks, or even worse, the Agile playbook comes from. Playbooks and templates kill all creativity, kill all innovation, kill all improvement, because we are looking at something else, at somebody else, to make sure that we get. And this is not what happened in the mid-90s when we were working on those frameworks that eventually were there when we wrote the manifesto, right? And that's something that we need to understand. So if you really want to get that agility, you have to understand that, number 1, we have to work as a team. I am not in one small function anymore. I'm not the analyst or the scrum master or the tester or I have a role. I have different roles. And, depending on what the team needs, I have to shift my work of the day. Because in the end, as a team, we are responsible to deliver at the end of the sprint, mind you, into production. Please note, if you're not going into production at the end of your sprint, you have a sprint fail, right? So this means that if Michael gets stuck with something and in the daily he tells me, us as a team, he tells us, and I have that solution, I will, leave my work as it is, help him out, make sure that he can move forward, and then I go back to my work. So as a team, we move forward, or the other way around. And that's the kind of thinking that we don't have. We get the situations where, I think in every organization, the role of a scrum master is bound to an individual. I worked in a digital factory. The scrum master is a role, and you need people who understand how to do this. But today, Michael can be in the sprint the scrum master, and the next sprint I could be it, or maybe I am the scrum master, but today I'm off, or the rest of the week I'm off, or maybe I'm sick or whatever, and somebody else can jump in who knows how to do that job too. It's not about, that silo task, and that's what we make. And this is coming back to the same thing. Tell me what to do. I don't like change, right? And this is what we need to get away with. Agile came forward from innovation. Agile came forward from people who said, we have those problems like silo roles and the toll gates and the remote data communication and the estimation issues and the waterfall, where everything is happening at the end when it comes to quality. We need to do different things. If you do the same things, if you have the same attitude, the same shit will happen to you, right? And that's what you need to get. So that's what Agile is all about. When you come into a problem, so you go to your 2-day training, and then you go to work and you bump into a problem and you look in the back of your head for a solution where the old solutions are. I call that innovating backward. And what you need to do is innovate forward within the values and the principles of Agile. Look in the frameworks, what practices do we have? And can I make the next step to become a better Agile team? And that's important, a better Agile team. And your team can work completely different from my team. And as long where we have connections, we are aligned, we're totally fine. I remember, in that model with self-organizing teams that I just talked about 25 years ago. Somebody asked me, it was about HR and processes for, evaluation of the individual people in the teams. And somebody said to me, but I expect that you wanted every team to do it in a similar way. I said, no, of course not. It should be about the outcome that we focus on. But how the teams do it themselves is up to them. Because what makes them feel best, that's what they should do, right? Even on splitting bonuses on the team level, that was done in the teams. Every team had their own way. But we are so used to those old habits, to the old paradigms. We can't even perceive that this can be done, right? And after 25 years or more, 28, 9 years, this year 30 years, by the way, in the summer, Agile working, I know it can be done, it has been done, but it's difficult because of those old paradigms. That's the big thing. So if you talk about Agile, really, it's about, you just look in the mirror. And especially when people talk to you, if they want an improvement, and you think, or you say, yes, but, then you know that an old paradigm is stepping on your shoulder, because you can't even perceive that it can be possible. I have, 11 seconds left. Okay, so I want to give you a line of Winston Churchill. And if I say it correctly, it's like, perfect is not a state. Perfect, that was it. Perfect is an ambition. And to reach your ambition, you need to change a lot. So perfect people change a lot. And that's what I want to give to you. Keep on the change, improve forward within the values and the principles.
Thank you very much, Arie. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to switch off my television. It jumped on. I don't know what happened, but sorry.
You're probably on TV as well, huh?
Yeah. So here I am. Okay. So yeah. So any questions, please, come on.
Yeah, the floor is open. So who wants to go first?
Okay, you might be recorded. Somebody is asking to unmute. You might be recorded, but don't be afraid of it. It will be okay.
Oh.
Nobody's biting you in the bum, okay? So Michael, Alex is asking to unmute. Is that correct? Alex? Because it pops up into my...
No.
Okay, no. Okay.
Oh, I think people can sort of unmute themselves. So whoever wants to speak up.
Come on. Questions. It's early. The
Really
moment of the day.
Yeah, Rainer is the first.
Then I will start. Thanks for the talk, Arie. My question would be, I understand your analysis and I agree with it. Usually when we talk about change, we'd say there needs to be a sense of urgency. You know, some problem is there that I can see and that I need to react to. But when you say, but you say, you know, that's exactly the moment when the old habits kick in. So when would be a good time, according to your experience, to instill some sort of change, to experiment with new agile ways of working?
Well, you know, never change a winning team, right? So if things are going well, you shouldn't change. And I remember that I was at a big telco somewhere in Europe and talked to the board, and it was about agile transformation. And they asked me, Arie, why should we do this? We are the #1 in our business in our country. And I said, you should do this to stay the #1 in your country. And the point is that if, you know, an incident happens, then we feel urgency. But the moment that there is no incident, we think we are okay. You know, it's like that crocodile that is, you know, on the riverbank. But you and I see behind the bushes a guy with a gun. The crocodile doesn't. So he stays on the riverbank. Maybe it's time to go and submerge. So I think it comes back to I think, you know, any change in an organization, including an agile transformation, should be highly supported by the leadership team. And the leadership team, their responsibility is to have that visionary view on their market. And even if it's a not-for-profit, you know, governmental or semi-governmental or whatever, you know, they should understand, okay, we are in a constantly changing world. We should be prepared not for a specific event. We should be prepared for change. And if you're not, you can be out of business in those technology days within weeks or months. But that's an awareness that requires vision, and it requires courage, and it doesn't always have support from shareholders, especially when you're on the stock exchange, right? It can be a difficult one. Yeah.
I'm also wondering, because what we as a human being really like to have is actually security and security and control. So what actually will be the next step? So what is a recommendation for larger companies and management teams to loosen up a bit the control, and how can this be done to become more agile, actually?
Yeah, well, so I always ask, because, you know, sometimes people ask me, you know, the funny joke in the morning, hey, Arie, everything under control? And I always say, I hope not, because being in control is an illusion. And that's for me in my life, and that's for leadership teams on the company level. What they do is they try to gather data, and people do a lot of window dressing with the data to make it all look brilliant, right? And then things go wrong. So yeah, from that perspective, yeah, I don't know. It's more like, you know, understanding that today's world. So I started working in the consultancy in 1987, January 1, 1987. Those days, things were so different from today. If you and I look, where are we right here, right now? You know, the internet is ruling the world. In 1987, it didn't exist, right? So we have to understand that the pace of innovation is only going faster. And being able to handle change, I would say, if you're late, don't worry, competition will be on time, because the internet facilitates competition from all over the world. There's always somebody faster than you. So you need to have that sense of awareness, and it starts with leadership teams, and it starts with being transparent, and as a leadership team, taking the role in that kind of attitude towards everyday work.
So, okay, that's really, control is an illusion, and this needs to be communicated also to the management teams. Thank you for that. Claudia, please go ahead.
Yes, Arie, you described the problem. How do you help the people to change their paradigms?
Okay, so you cannot say, I have a prescription and you go to the pharmacy and then for everybody it will be okay. What is for me very important is that when you go into change, I like to start change on the team level. I have the leadership team being prepared for their teams going into change, because they need to be ahead of everybody else. They need to understand, they need to be the role model, etc. And then I have an assessment that I can take to the team level. So I have different teams I want to give. So I was at one moment in time on the other side of the world, and we're going into this transformation. I like to work in more or less 3-month waves, and the 27 or 28 teams in that so I have 9 coaches working with me, you know, multiple countries. But we have, on every team, we have an assessment, and we know that the teams have different kind of responsibilities, different type of work, because there might be a marketing team, software development team, or whatever they are, right? They have different teams. And if you take that in consideration, that teams are different and people are different, what I like to do is I set the baseline for foundations. I call it collaboration foundations. This is how we work. We looked at your team, we look what kind of work you have. We recommend you now, you know, with all the agile practices, work agnostic, use those practices. And then you go into retrospectives, of course, every sprint, you know, you have your retrospective. And problems will come out. You help team solving, and in the beginning it's about knowledge, because people don't know how to do it. Maybe they do it in the wrong way. So you help them on the team level, and the more that you go through that wave, you can zoom in on the individual level. And some of the people on teams, they just go like this. And some people have individually a big struggle to make that change because they can't comprehend. And then you give them extra attention in the transformation process. This is also why I strongly believe, and I work with a lot of behavioral scientists. I like to work with psychologists on my team of Agile coaches. They need to understand Agile deeply, but they have to have that background in, okay, human change, the mind, the difficulties, the overcome, because people have resistance, period, right? How can I get this? So aligning first on the collaboration, this is how we do it. Giving them the window, every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, we're going to evaluate, we're going to improve. Every time that we have a new collaboration foundations from the beginning all the way through, said, okay, guys, are we committed to this sprint to work like this? And then we're going to do it like this. And if you don't know this Agile practice that we're going to use now, the coaches do, and they will help you to do it right. And then we evaluate again at the end of the sprint. And if you give them that foresight that they are also part of that improvement process, that they can contribute. If they have a problem, they get help. That will help, but not everybody will go along, right? You will lose people along the way in any change. But, I say 90% of the people will get there, right? Yeah.
Thanks for that. Thank you. Christina, please.
Yes, and actually it goes in a similar direction. You had a very strong statement, and I fully agree, Agile is not about rules and frameworks. But let's say I have seen it now multiple times with computer scientists, and they're not looking for rules and frameworks, they're looking for tools, which is in my perspective not better to say this is that tool and I have to do it with the tool and around the tool. But actually they are not focusing actually on the customer and the delivery and solving the problems as a team together. What is your approach to such teams? Really looking first to the tools and Kanban boards and so on.
Yeah, okay, I make a difference between Agile practices, because a Kanban board is practice, plan boards is a practice, and tools like Jira or, whatever. A fool with a tool is still a fool. So in my transformation process, I start working with the teams, or my coaches start working with the teams on the collaboration first. How do we do this together? And then maybe after 4 or 5 sprints, we're going to move towards using tools. And for me, a plan board is an Agile practice, right? Tools, if you use Jira, it's a beautiful tool, but if you use Jira, you can build a brilliant waterfall in Jira. So you have to be aware of this, right? And this is why I focus on that mindset in the first, 4, 5, 6 sprints, depending on the team and the situation, to make sure that they get the mindset, to make sure that they get the practices, to make sure that they understand and know the practices. They're not experts on it yet. Don't forget this, right? They're new. But only then, when they can see it work, with the help of a coaches, then you start introducing tools. But there are a lot of people that focus, we are Agile, we use Jira. And there is nothing wrong with Jira, nothing. It's the way a lot of people use it, that's wrong, when it comes to working Agile. And I think that's where we take the quantum leap. We don't like change, so tell me what to do. Here is the manual of Jira or, whatever you use, right? And okay, this is what it says. And then we go, and then based on the old knowledge, we build all those old habits in that tool, and we shouldn't.
Is there any practice where you would say, let's start with this practice and the team?
So the practices that I'm just talking from my own experience, the practices that I always use is from the Agile Project Management Framework, the foundations, including the collaboration foundations, to set up a delivery team so we have a proper backlog, estimated, etc., in an Agile way, fast and good. I can't do without visual management, that's for sure. I would highly recommend habits like and practices like pair programming, for example, test-driven development. Again, right, it comes back to what kind of team that you have and what kind of state that team is. But pairing, test-driven development, refactoring, foundations, the snowman for roles and responsibilities, Moscow for prioritization. those are the ones that most of the time are used next to others, depending on the team.
Thank you very much. Christian, please go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Arie. Good morning. Thank you for being here. You said the paradigm shift is the challenge, and what I see in some organizations I can support is like from the city administration, any kind of other public authorities. They have so stuck organizational behaviors that we can't change. We are slow. We are a slow company. And I would like you to ask, do you think the first step is to give a kick to the agile mindset, to whatever that is, or is the first step to make sure what is the goal of our organization, what is the goal of our team? Because what I see is they don't have goals at all. So the first thing for me is not to as Christina said, try any kind of agile practice unless I don't know what is the goal of my company, what is the goal of my organization, of my team, what is my business.
Good question. So where I start, so there's somebody from the leadership team, from the executive board approached me, Arie, can you do an agile transformation? My first question is, why? I mean, if you go into a transformation, what is the purpose of that transformation? I want to give you 2 examples from European countries. One of my clients says, I have 1,000 people software development company, and our software is so poor that we have so many incidents that we don't get to new development, we lose our clients. So now I know that the first outcome of this transformation need to be focusing on the quality. So you go a lot into test-driven development, pairing, refactoring, and there was a lot of old code. Okay. Another client of mine said, Arie, I'm a tech company. Innovation is my lifeline. I want to have a lot of efficiency, so I save time, and the time that I save, I can use for innovation. Now I know I need to go a lot into, lean working, into Scrum working. Scrum is focusing a lot of efficiency. So now I can see that depending on what the client wants to come out of the agile transformation, I have a different focus in the frameworks because every framework has different benefits. After a while, when people get into that rhythm, and for example, the first example that I gave about they said the purpose was we need to have a number of incidents going down by 50%. And after 9 months, the number of incidents was down by 30%. Okay, awesome, right? You're not there yet, but there's a lot of heritage in the code. So, there's a lot of work, but we are getting there. So that kind of attitude where you say, okay, I need to start to understand why you want this, agile transformation now. Remember that we already talked a little bit about the pain. You will get in a moment that you say, okay, that problem is solved now. We have that efficiency, or we have that better quality code, but then you will find new things. And at one moment in time, you get this in that modus of continuous improvement. But I start with the why question on the management level. You don't do agile because the next door neighbor is doing it. You do it for a reason. And I say business reason, but it can be a government as well. If you look at the changes over the last, 5 years, geopolitical, with the coronavirus, all the things that have to happen. And then on the side, we have the bird flu where, things need to happen fast, right? So we are in the technology and the cyber attacks. So we need to respond fast. But, you have to find your way to understand why, go into transformation. Once you solve that problem, another area for improvement will pop up, and then you take that one. It's about, so people ask me, when are you done with an agile transformation? Difficult one. Whatever I say, remind that you're never done with continuous improvement.
Thank you very much. We probably have much more questions, and I understand that Arie is available just after the large time box. So I would just like to come to the closing, and even if I have 2 more questions for you later. So I'm just wondering now, which thoughts of, say, of this impulse today has sort of inspired you, or you take as a gift, take away or so, if you wish. You can comment also in the chat, or you can also speak up. We will have, say, 4 more minutes, and just give a brief statement.
Yeah, if I can invite you guys, just talk. You know, no remote or written communication, just talk.
Yeah, it was good to know that learning for 2 days after that you're no expert. I'm completely with you, Arie, what you mentioned in the first case. It needs time to be an expert, experience, and so on and so on. And also changing his mind with the time, or time by time, to adapt to the circumstances, to the environment. Thanks, Arie. Great input. Thanks.
Nice to hear.
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Very good.
Somebody else, come on.
I
Come
like
on.
the idea when you said that when somebody's asking you to do transformation, your first question is why. I really like that. I realized that actually this is how it should start.
Yeah.
Why do you need, what do you want to take from it? What's going to bring you? So it's a really good point. Thank you for this.
Thanks, Tatjana. Very good.
Yeah, I kind of join with that. It's not inspiration necessarily, but reassurance, let's say, the way that you go with why, and you need to focus on the controlled environment. I always like to say, like, it's more of a way of pragmatic agile in the first place. You need to figure out where you want to go and what's possible in a certain environment. So yeah, it was for me more reassurance. Thank you, Arie, for your input very much.
And you know, when you do an agile transformation, excuse my French, but that's just another project, right? And if you take it from that perspective, any project, the first question is, why? Why? And if people are not able to answer that question, I always ask, what will happen to your organization if we don't?
Very good, John. Yeah, exactly.
I like the bit where you said you need to find security in an uncontrollable world, find peace, sort of, if you like, in being creative in a situation where you can't really, figure out what's the outcome going to be, but still do it. Yeah, I like that bit very much. Thank you.
We have to understand that being in control is a delusion, right? And I think we all heard this, especially if you have worked on an IT department. Oh, those people from the business, they don't know what they want. Of course they don't know, because if they would know, they would already have it. It's finding out, it's experimenting, it's prototyping. Same thing with the way of working. Yeah. And then we get there. Never perfect, but always trying to get better every sprint.
I really liked your example with the traffic, because it shows so very well that in a critical situation, you fall back to old behavior. So it's a very, very good example. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can tell you, you don't want to sit next to me when I'm driving in Johannesburg traffic.
Well, I would like to.
Well, I have Natasha drive you, okay? Then you're safe. Yeah.
Okay. I took a note when you said playbooks kill improvement. I never liked playbooks so much, and now I have a quip to quote when somebody asks me for a playbook.
The point is, in itself, a playbook or a template, because it's basically a template, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but it's the way that people use it, because they'll say, oh, it's in the playbook. Oh, that's a template. And we forget, you have a brain yourself, start fucking thinking how you can make it better. And that's also, this is where people often lack support of management teams, lack support of some middle management who's responsible for making the playbook. And so, no, you can't touch it because it's version 6.3 and it's mine, and you have to work, that kind of shit. And you don't have to. In the organization that I worked, that I talked about the time that we wrote the manifesto, every team was working different. Where we connected, that's where we make sure that we kept the connection, over teams. But inside the teams, feel free and keep that thought and keep the improvement.
Thank you very much. The time box is practically, we have achieved or reached the time box. So thank you very much again, Arie, for your talk, for your impulse, very inspirational. I really enjoyed it very much. Thanks for having you. And so this is now the official closing of the impulse session, but we can stay here and just continue asking questions.